see in real time what their system is doing, which is really nice, you know. And then of course they get their energy bill now, and they're seeing how little they're paying for energy. And we're not even net metering at their house yet. We're still waiting for capacity in their area. Toronto Hydro unfortunately did not approve their net metering, but it, you know, we're waiting. So the system, as soon as they give us the go and we want to do it, we can do it as well. So
in terms of cost wise, the initial output is obviously higher because you're introducing a full different system on your roof. But the actual outcome of that is you end up being able to save money, and you can also get credits if you're actually sending your
energy back to the grid. Yeah. And then the other thing too, it's really hard to determine future earnings from the system or savings. The biggest one is weather. We don't know. We know where the sun's going to be depending on the time of the year, but we don't know if it's going to be cloudy, a big snowstorm. How long does that snow stay on the panels and prevent the production? Ideally, it's a 4-month window where it's not very good production, and an 8-month window where it is pretty good production in Canada, at least in Toronto. And another way to look at it is, so basically we're just basing on energy rates today, but those are probably going to go up in 5 years, and they're probably going to go up in another 5 years to a point where we won't know the potential savings, but exponentially, I think there's a lot more savings to be had than people can actually put on a tangible number right now. If we just say, hey, you use this many kilowatt hours per year, and this is the rate, we look at your energy bill, well, that's this year, but in 5 years, if the rates have tripled, well, now your savings are huge.
Right.
So that's one thing to consider.
I have a question for you. Sorry to interrupt. Does it matter? So I know we're talking about new builds and incorporating the solar panel system. My first question would be, if we have an existing home, is it still feasible and doable to add the solar panel because we'd like to take advantage of all these benefits?
Absolutely.
And also, does it matter what material is on your roof? Like if it's a
very good question. So the
shingles or whatever.
The racking, so there's many types of ways to mount the panels. The most common that people see, we call it flush mount. So we use a racking system that gets mounted right on top of your shingles to your roof, right to the trusses, and then sealed around, so there's no way for water to penetrate that racking mount. And then the panels get mounted to those racks. As long as the slope's pretty good, and you know where you can find the trusses, it's very easy. But it does stick up from the roof a little bit. It does protect the shingles because it actually takes away the UV that would normally be destroying the shingles. So if you install new shingles and we put panels on top of them, you're actually extending the life of those shingles quite a bit, which is a great benefit. There are other ways. So if you have a flat roof, for example, you have a membrane roof, we don't penetrate through the membrane. We use a weighted system. So they're basically held down with weighted cinder blocks, and then again, racking gets added to those, and then the panels get on top of the racking. So the
frame goes onto the flat area, and then that's kind of supported down, and then the actual panel goes on top.
Yeah, so they're basically like plastic pieces that have a cinder block that sit in them, and then there's a spot for the rail to mount between them. So you'll have like multiple, so you have rows of rails, and then the panels mount to the rails and get clamped down to those rails.
Maybe so that's provide us with a little schematic of how that works on a flat roof, on an angled roof.
Yeah. I've got a whole bunch of websites ready to go that I can send you the links for, so you can get a visual. Some videos and some stuff like that that really helps to educate. Like a picture says 1,000 words, so a small video really will help anyone get a better grasp of what solar is all about and all these components that I'm talking about. So yeah, and that's called a ballast mount. The third option, which is really, really great, especially for new builds, but it's an integrated solution. So basically what we do is you remove the need for shingles. So there's no sheathing in shingles. It's like a plastic, think of it about the size of a solar panel that the panel just kind of clicks into, and that sits flush. So we put that across the whole roof.
Wow.
And then the panels go on top, and you don't need to shingle anymore. So they're integrated. So now the panels look smooth and flush. They're not sitting on top of your roof standing out. They are literally smooth and flush. It's beautiful. So it requires, exactly. So it requires a little more planning. obviously for new builds, or if someone's going to redo their roof, you could do it at that point. But typically it's only in new builds. But it looks beautiful. And it helps you offset the cost of the overall solar, because now you're not having to shingle your roof. So you can save some money there and take that money and put it into the solar. So there are ways to even save building costs just by integrating solar into your home build. So
Okay. But if
and
you're
then
not, like, what if you don't need all those panels across the entire roof span?
you could just do like one strip
Ah, okay.
if you wanted to. So again, this gets into the designing side. So this would be the architects and engineers and designers like you putting this together and figuring out how it's going to work. So yeah, you could have a row of panels at the top that go all the way across that are integrated, and then right below it, you could go back to a different type of roofing material if you wanted. But most of them, when they use the integrated solution, they do end up using the whole roof, ideally because they're selling the energy back to the grid.
Right.
So if you're selling it back to the grid and you have a roof, you maximize how many panels are up there, because that's going to maximize how much energy you send back, and then your returns will be better.
If you're already doing that one strip, you might as well just do all of it, and you can benefit from the selling it back.
Again, every place is different because the rules around net metering are different from every energy provider. So in Toronto, we have Toronto Hydro, Ontario, we have Hydro One, but in Quebec, it's different than in Newfoundland and Calgary. Alberta is different than BC. So every province that regulates energy, they have different systems. Unfortunately, Ontario is a little further behind some of the other provinces, but hopefully that will change with everything going on and people realizing how being sustainable and efficient is kind of becoming the new norm. I think it's going to help push people over to the solar side if they're on the fence about it before. And hopefully just a little education like this will give people a little bit more insight into see how they can benefit. And, it's also doing a good thing too, right? We're becoming less reliant on other ways of producing energy that aren't so environmentally friendly, that produce a lot of carbon. So yeah, it's another thing that we can benefit.
We hear about solar panels and we see them on homes, but that's kind of the extent of it. So I appreciate you giving us a lot more feedback behind it, details. And if you can provide us with some links, and I'll also post your email as well. So if anyone has questions, they can contact you. They can contact me. I may not have nearly as much info about it as you would. I could be the middlewoman. Why not? And so thank you so much. And just very briefly, I know you and I are working along with Jan and another lovely lady named Jess on Carte Blanche, and we're working on an at-home system. And I feel like we should have a chat about this on another segment.
Absolutely.
That's going to be a really little fun design project between all of us. So I'll post your Carte Blanche thing as well, so everyone can kind of become a bit more familiar about it and do some homework until we actually talk about it formally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a bit of a wine sort of aficionado, professional, sommelier in training as well. So that kind of was the backstory to the Carte Blanche bar with Jess and Jen. Yeah, so I'd love to have that conversation another time, maybe talk about some wine and the cool collab that we're working on as well. So
to send me a list of wines before we go on, so I can.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll be able to see you and Jen live in person.
Yes.
Until then, this is great. And stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Avisa.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, bye.